the Monday before tables, ladders and chairs. The 12th one in history, if anyone cares. The end of the year, as Ross once said, is nigh. And are we, the Monday lads, going out on a high? Months of sadness, frustration, confusion. But less about the booking of Retribution. Are we ending on top or ending quite jaded? Let's find out together. This is Raw Graded. The Miz starts us off in the ring surrounded by a ladder and a Christmas tree. He reads from "'Twas the Nightmare Before TLC." A beautiful story with acting provided by AJ Styles, a brief cameo by Omos, and Drew Braveheart played by John Morrison. The story ends with AJ Styles ascending the ladder and becoming WWE champion, but with the twist at the end that the Miz has added in, that he cashes in his Money in the Bank briefcase and he becomes the champion at the end. And to all good night, as they bicker over the ending of this lovely tome, here comes Sheamus heading down the ring, congratulating those involved with the Community Performance Theatre, saying that he's there to fight. In fact, he wants to fight AJ Styles. They've got a match later on, but it looks like it's going to happen immediately. AJ Styles backs off from this, throws the Christmas tree, the aforementioned one, at Sheamus to get some distance, slides out of the ring, and Sheamus responds by hoiking a Christmas present that just beams off the head of AJ Styles. Honestly, the way that it struck his head looked flipping painful. So when we come back from break, the match is underway. It's Sheamus and AJ Styles, and Sheamus is dominant in the early stages of this match. AJ ties up Sheamus at one point in the rope, starts beating him up in the corner, gives him a brief lead, but Sheamus fights back, goes for a powerbomb off the apron, but Omos is there, who just picks up AJ, boink, drops him on the ground as we go to break. When we come back, AJ is working over the leg of Sheamus. That injured wheel was spotted early on in the match, and AJ has just been zoning in on it the whole time. Sheamus weirdly attempts an Irish curse backbreaker on that bad leg, and he even manages to hit a desperation white noise after fighting out of the calf crusher too. On one leg, Sheamus tries to take AJ Styles up the top rope, presumably looking for an avalanche white noise, but AJ able to get out of it, and he strikes Sheamus's leg, sends him careering back onto the canvas, and rolls him up for the 1, 2, 3. Sneaky cheeky win by AJ Styles. After the match, we see Sheamus go to attack AJ once again, but ends up getting his foot trapped in the ropes, and he's hanging from the ropes down towards the floor. And he's just completely helpless with his rope all tied up, his foot all tied up in the ropes. Omos hands AJ a chair, and AJ just goes to town on Sheamus with this steel chair, beating him senseless. His music starts playing. He goes, "Actually, I'm not done." Beats him up a little bit more. And then him and Omos walk off having a lovely time as Sheamus is just away with the fairies at this point. B+ for the opening story time and the opening match as well. Really fun opening skits from everybody involved. And then a really good match that gives a mean streak to AJ. And then we start asking that question once again. Sheamus getting beaten up. Where was Drew McIntyre? Oh, let's keep that quietly bubbling over. AJ actually drops a really interesting line in before this match even starts, where he says to Sheamus, "You're either part of the solution or part of the problem." I wanted to mention this very last thing because I feel like Sheamus's answer therefore was, "I'm part of the problem." I feel like that's a line that is going to come back to us down the road. I feel like we're going to revisit this idea of Sheamus becoming part of the solution and deciding to take out Drew McIntyre. I'm just planting that seed there. The New Day and Jeff Hardy teaming up to take on the Hurt Business in six-man tag team action. Beforehand, we see the Hurt Business backstage hassling a WWE crew hand who's wearing a Matt Riddle hat and eating a bro nut. Bobby Lashley pours milk all over him. Naughty Lashley, wasting all that malak. Pouring it all over that poor crew hand like a bully. We then see Matt Riddle we've dropped the mat, haven't we? You know what I mean. We see Riddle approaching the New Day and Jeff Hardy. He insists on, for tonight, becoming Bro E to replace Big E for the guys. Jeff Hardy even asks if he wants to do the Hardy Bros entrance, so they walk out together. It's a lovely moment for all involved. Six-man tag gets underway with Lashley going immediately for the Hurt Lock. on Xavier Woods, but Woods able to quickly get out of it. But there's a little moment of, I could have had you, I could have had you, I could have had you. Lashley controlling this match until Cedric Alexander tags himself in. And from there, it's Cedric pretty dominant over the New Day. Mainly, we're seeing Kingston getting worked over quite badly by combos of Shelton and Cedric and Bobby Lashley. They're doing a number on Kingston for most of this. Kofi manages to land a boot out of the corner to give him a chance to tag Jeff Hardy. We all run wild. Everybody gets in. Dives here, there, and everywhere. Kofi lands one. Xavier goes to land one on Bobby, but Bobby catches him and ends up driving him into the barricade. We're left in the ring with Jeff Hardy fighting Bobby Lashley at the end of this. And they go back and forth on this. We see Bobby wants to go for the Hurt Lock. We see Hardy able to get out of it. He goes up for the Whisper in the Wind, but there's Cedric to knock his foot from underneath him. Very similar to the ending of the AJ Styles Sheamus match from earlier. The old leg under, punched the leg from under the leg. Thank you, Owen Hart. And then from there, we see Bobby Lashley get the Hurt Lock on, and Jeff Hardy taps out. Post-match, Cedric Alexander up and down, jumping, celebrating like he had been the one that won the match. So, I see what you're doing there, Cedric. Giving it a B. Some really good six-man action. Shame it was the same finish that we just had in the first match. Cedric Alexander is a really interesting little figure to keep an eye on here. Like the little touches that he's been adding to his performance lately. This sort of this self-pride in a business full of in a business full of team players. It's intriguing. It's intriguing. Lana taking on Nia Jax next. This is one of the key matches that they told us about last week. Keep that in mind. Asuka pumping up Lana in gorilla position before the match. Not literally, no, you know what I mean. Nia controls this match very early on. She goes for a powerbomb. Lana hits a Hurricane Rana, sends her driving into the corner. And it looks like we might see Lana get a win, but Nia once again powers up. Takes her up to the top rope. Feel like this has happened before. Up the top we go. Lana comes down, and you guessed it, punches her foot from underneath her. Third match in a row we've had that. Okay. Down falls Nia Jax. Lana gets a pin on top. 1, 2, 3. In a couple of minutes, Lana has pinned Nia Jax. Asuka's backstage celebrating, and she gets jumped by Shayna Baszler. Baszler charges towards the ring, and we get Baszler and Jax doing a number on Lana. They batter her arm. They grab her leg. They rip her boot off. And they hold her, and Shayna holds her leg in an awkward position as Nia Jax just leg drops Lana over and over onto that leg. Lana screaming in pain as Asuka finally gets to her senses, makes the save, sends the baddies running, but the damage has already been done. We know that Lana got taken to a medical facility, and she is out of the pay-per-view. Giving this match a C, though. This was really nothing. This was a match that the whole of this feud, the reason we're having this tag title match at TLC on Sunday is because of the Lana Nia Jax thing. And not only have you paid that off the week before with having Lana relatively cleanly pinning Nia Jax in minutes, you've just taken Lana out of the pay-per-view altogether. What are you doing? That's a weird turn of events. It's a C for me, this one. Just thrown it away. This could have been the match. I genuinely thought the real money there. If you're gonna build Lana and Nia Jax, just go all in with it and have that as your singles match and have it as a tables match at TLC. That seems to be... They're not doing that though. I don't know. We get an Elias concert, kinda, sort of. Elias introduces us to his new friend, Jackson Riker. Spotlight on Jackson Riker in every sense of the word. Elias says that he could have died when he got electrocuted by the speaker during that Symphony of Destruction match, but instead he became baptized by lightning. And then Riker speaks, saying that Elias's music changed him. You could say it moved him to a bigger house. Sorry, I whispered the quiet bit. And Simpsons references. Riker is basically now protecting Elias. Elias dedicates the healing power of music and this next song to Lana. As he starts to play, he's interrupted by R-Truth, who apologizes for interrupting at main event. He then stands there as Elias starts playing, but then the 24/7 division rush the ring, and R-Truth gets out of there, but Elias stays in there as Jackson Riker just batters everybody. Elias plays his chord, and that's it. No concert. Well, whatever. C+ here. This feels like a bit of a demotion for Elias, doesn't it? Riker is, regardless of all that over there, Riker is an unnecessary addition to Elias, I believe. I don't think Elias needs Elias is massive. Like, he doesn't need a bodyguard type figure, I don't think. And then I feel like that Elias now larking around in the 24/7 division, I feel like there should be more from Elias, really. And also the 24/7 division, geez, same as it ever was. Same as it ever was. Let's do something different with that. Just not Elias and Jackson Riker, though. Let's do something else. Keith Lee in a handicap match next. He's taking on Miz and Morrison. This match sponsored by Axe, apparently. It's called Lynx in the UK. I don't know why. Tell me why in the comments below. Keith busting out a spinning wheel kick early on. Lovely stuff, Keithy boy. He beats down Miz and Morrison for ages. He pounces Jomo out of the ring before the break. And he's throwing Jomo across the ring when we come back from the break. However, strength in numbers means that Keith Lee gets worn down by Miz and Morrison. Several big moves on the ground, big standing shooting star from Morrison, but they can't put Keith Lee away. Can't keep him down for 3. They even try the old WrestleMania trick they did with Warrior and Rick Rude, pulling his legs out from under him with a suplex. That won't even keep Keith down. Keith ends up fighting back. He goes for a spirit bomb on Jomo, but Jomo slides out of it, and then we see springboard wheel kick from Morrison to Keith. Big running boot from Miz to Keith. Another springboard kick from Morrison. Another boot from Miz. And then eventually everybody, like we say another kick, chop block. Both men pile on Keith Lee. Double pin, 1, 2, 3. Keith Lee's first real loss in Monday Night Raw has happened as of last night. So they celebrate as they head off the ramp, and Keith looks rather annoyed. B- for this. It was a good match. I think Keith looks strong, even in defeat. There'll be some people that will be upset, concerned, a little bit sickly about the idea of Keith Lee losing a match. It wasn't like he got battered. Just saying, he's been pinned before through dubious circumstances. And whilst there was nothing really dubious, it was a handicap match, and everything they kind of did was clean as a whistle. I think still it took an army to put Keith Lee down, pretty much. So, and it was a fun match. It was good. Bray Wyatt is on a field trip to the Thunderdome, and he welcomes all his Fireflies in the dome. And look who's front row. He's flipping Rambling Rabbit, Mercy the Buzzard, and Husky's the Pig Boy. Having a lovely day out. I had to go to the gift shop afterwards. Bray Wyatt starts with an apology to Randy Orton for last week. He says that he wishes he had a chance to finish what they started, because when the Fiend's done with him at TLC, there ain't going to be much left. He then says, TLC, things get serious. But for now, we'll tell some jokes. So he gives us some Viper-themed jokes. What's the best way to measure a Viper? In inches, because they don't have any feet. I like that. What do snakes use to clean their car windows? That's right, windscreen Vipers. We don't get any more, sadly, because Randy Orton interrupts us somewhere in the catacombs of the Thunderdome. And he says that he was outmaneuvered by the Fiend last week, but it won't be the case at TLC. He then invites Bray to extend his field trip and play a bit of hide and seek. See if you can find him somewhere in the Thunderdome. And Bray is delighted with this, and off he skips to go and play hide and seek. B+ for this. I think Bray shines when he's looking down the lens of a camera and switching between like happy smiley Bray and then just sort of channeling that Fiend anger and then sort of snapping back to it. Like, that's where he really shines, like bouncing these personalities around in his head. MACE versus Ricochet. The battle of retribution in many senses continues here. Mustafa Ali is on commentary. Retribution are by his side with new merch, because nothing says organised rebellion quite like buy our merchandise. The revolution will be televised and merchandised. Ali accuses commentary of being propaganda. They're pushing the idea that retribution sucks. Yeah, that's exactly what's going on. Ali acknowledges that Mace is Dio Madden, which is an interesting little development, because he says Samoa Joe knows what Mace is all about because he sat in his chair. So I guess we're now kind of revealing who they are. Is that what we're doing? But in that case, are we going to acknowledge Dominik Dijakovic? I don't know. Anyway, Ricochet dominated for a bit by Mace, but pushes back pretty early on. Mustafa Ali sends T-Bar and Slapjack and et al. To try and stop Ricochet, the monster Ricochet, but Ricky sends them all packing. Eventually, we see Mace take control of the match. Ali stands up from the commentary position and tells Mace to shut him down, to which Mace hits a beauty of a spinning side slam for the 1, 2, 3. Post-match, Retribution get in the ring and they're all swarming around Ricochet. Mustafa Ali says, "This ends when you join Retribution." Didn't he get offered to join Retribution and say no? And weren't you like, all right, you've had your chance? Are we giving him another chance to get into Retribution now? Okay, sure, whatever. It wasn't much to the match. It was just more good, inconsistent fun from Retribution. They're consistently inconsistent, which I guess makes them somewhat consistent. Bray Wyatt is backstage looking for Randy Bobandy and comes across Riddle, asking if Riddle has seen Randy Orton. Riddle says he hasn't, but asks if Bray Wyatt could push his invention on the Firefly Funhouse, Bronouns. He's got a whiteboard and everything that shows charts. Apparently, this is another invention of Riddle's. Bray says, "I've not got time, but good luck with it all." As he leaves, Ramblin' Rabbit appears to chat with Riddle, and Riddle says, "You look like Baby Yoda. I'll call you Baby Broder." He adds bro onto words. Isn't that how the Smurfs got over? I think it might have been. Shayna Baszler takes on Dana Brooke next. Baszler tries to break Dana's arm early on. Brooke fights back. As Brooke goes up top to hit something, Nia Jax, presumably bored and annoyed, just pushes Brooke off the top rope. Blatant DQ. In about a minute or so, this is done. And they're about to put a hurting down on Dana Brooke. And Mandy Rose hits the ring with a kendo stick. Starts going for everybody, but gets overwhelmed. Asuka comes out to help the side out. And they send the tag team champions packing. Commentators teasing the idea that one of Dandy might be teaming up with Asuka at TLC. C- here. There's nothing to this. Just a device for a half-hearted Mandy return and some consideration for the Sunday pay-per-view. I'm just so confused. The women's tag match was happening because Lana and Nia Jax had beef. Lana's not in the match. What's the point? Like, why is will Asuka team with Mandy or Dana? I don't care. I actually care. I don't care at all. I wish I did, but I don't. Bray Wyatt's game of hide and seek continues. He stumbles across R-Truth and Husky's the pig boy having a chat about PlayStation 6 because PlayStation 5 is sold out. R-Truth mistakes Bray Wyatt for Huskin's dad. Ah, beautiful family. Bray stumbles upon a room with a rocking chair that's eerily silhouetted. So as any sensible-minded person would do, you go into the room and sit in the rocking chair. But this was like, any sensible person wouldn't do that. But there's a little subtlety here. The idea of like an old life pulling Bray Wyatt back. So Bray goes in and sits in the rocking chair. And lo and behold, there's Randy. Doesn't need night vision goggles this week. Attacks Bray from behind. Throws him into a shipping crate and shuts it, covers it in lighter fluid, sets it on fire, because that's how you get rid of your opponent for Sunday. Just burn them alive. And as Randy's there smiling and like looking evil and stuff, the crate opens up and now the Fiend is in there. And Orton looks like he's seen a Fiend. Fiend jumps out, puts the mandible claw on Orton and knocks him out as the segment ends. Tom Phillips, after they're replaying this, and Tom Phillips says, Orton thought he got one up on Wyatt ahead of TLC. I think setting a guy on fire is a little more than getting one up on them. You get one up on somebody by, hitting them with a chair. Or Pillmanizing them. Like, setting them on fire isn't mind games. It's pretty brutal. But I actually really like the hide and seek stuff, the field trip stuff that Wyatt and Orton did this week. The right level of bizarre for Orton and for Bray. And the idea that Orton outsmarted the Fiend but didn't. I'm intrigued for this match on Sunday. As long as it's not one big headlock, we'll all be fine. In the ring, MVP, he's taking on Riddle. Okay, they've been teasing this for a little bit of a while. Riddle comes out eating some bro nuts. There's a bit of brawling. Riddle hits a final flash. Riddle hits a floating bro and pins him and wins. That's that. Hurt Business rush to the ring, but Riddle gets out of there eating a bro-nut for victory. That was within like 2 minutes. That's what? D-. What's the point? You've been talking about this for weeks, and it's like, oh, here's the match. This is a match that they have this habit at the moment of just burning these matches that they seem to be building. They did that the second time they've done that today. Like, I don't know whether there was a timing issue, whether they were running out of time for the show, whether. I don't know. That just felt like an absolute waste of time. Literally, if you got that much time to fill, you could do anything else. Surely a promo backstage would have filled that time perfectly. Felt meaningless to chuck this out there. Like, MVP was back to his feet as soon as the 3 went down, trying to get Riddle back in the ring. What was the point? D-. And so we come to the main event. It's the Championship Ascension Ceremony. Sadly, nothing to do with Connor and Victor, but apparently this is what we do now ahead of a TLC or a ladder match. We the night before, or the episode of TV before, we put the championship on the rope and we send it up into the heavens where it will stay until Sunday. So that's what we've got here. Tom Phillips talks about the match on Sunday and then brings out AJ Styles and Drew McIntyre to cut some promos before the belt is ascended. AJ says he did a deep dive into Drew since they've never faced before. They wanted to deep dive into what Drew was all about, and he was shocked to find that Drew had spent so long trying to get to the top. And he said maybe he couldn't handle the pressure of being on top. AJ says he's noticed him making mistakes and taking risks. And AJ promised to break every table, ladder and chair over the back of Drew McIntyre to become the champion. At Drew McIntyre's turn, he says the match that he's having this Sunday is one that he's always wanted, one that people have always asked him about. He said his goal was originally to become the WWE champion. But then, when he became champion, then lost it, the goal became to always stay WWE champion. He won't crack under the pressure. He has steered WWE through some rocky waters in 2020. He even chucks in a classic quote, "Every man dies, but not every man truly lives." See what you're doing there. Freedom. Drew puts the belt on the rope to hang it above the ring, and then as it ascends, dramatic music plays, which is fine as an aesthetic choice, providing that AJ Styles didn't talk all over it, which he did. And AJ Styles says, "What if it's not just me you have to face at TLC?" And then Miz and Morrison hit the ring to attack Drew McIntyre, but Iron Drew will not stay down. He batters Miz, gives a claymore into a ladder into Jomo, goes to put the hurting on AJ Styles, but is distracted when steel chairs just burst into existence in the ring, thrown into the ring by Omos. And as Drew is looking at Omos, AJ takes advantage to chop block Drew, hit a phenomenal forearm, and then he takes a ladder, hits him with a ladder, hits him with a chair several times, gets a table in the ring with the help of Omos, gets on top of the ladder and does an elbow off the ladder through the table, and then gets back up the ladder and holds the championship aloft to end the night. So he's used the tables, the ladders and the chairs to put a hurting on Drew ahead of Sunday, giving this whole segment an A-. There were some really good lines throughout this, and Drew's great when he's selling these matches to you. Like he has this really great way with words and putting stuff over, and AJ is always class as well. And there's lots of variables going into this match. They managed to make this match feel like there's some jeopardy for Drew, which is important. I think when you're going into any pay-per-view, you want to feel like there's some championship jeopardy. The dramatic music as the belt went up, I could have probably done without. That just seemed a bit out of place, to be honest with you. But it was a really good segment to end the night on. And overall, I'm giving a B- to this week's episode of Monday Night Raw. The last part of the night was the best, and the first part of the night was probably a very close runner-up. There was lots in the middle that was very confusing and a bit of a waste of everybody's time, to be honest with you. Sort of non-matches that come and go very quickly, and stuff that we were kind of building to but not building to, and then stuff that we were building to that was just sort of quietly pushed to the one side. So all to play for as we head into the final pay-per-view of 2020. And that is actually my last Raw Graded of 2020. I'm off next week, so I won't be here to grade Raw. I can hear you cheering, I know. Thanks for watching the Red Brand with me this year. I've had a lovely time watching it with you and talking about all the nonsense that goes on in a silly world of professional wrestling. Have yourself an amazing Tuesday. Stay safe. Love you, bye.